This is a podcast about both having autism and living with someone who has autism. My mom is Sonya, and I'm Josh, and this is Josh Has Autism.
Hey everybody!
Hey!
Welcome to Josh Has Autism. This is our 1-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Do you believe that?
Barely.
You barely do?
Yeah.
Well, it's so just so that you know, I don't know exactly when we started. I don't know the date that we started, but I know that this is our 52nd podcast.
That's cool.
Yes.
That's cool.
So it equals a year one way or another. I know that we missed a couple because of different things, but but so we've been at it for a year.
Wow.
Crazy, right? Yeah. So
and I'm sorry right off the bat to our listeners. I do have a little bit of a throat thing going on, so if I sound funny, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think you're okay. We can understand you anyway. That's cool. So anyway, I think what we should do today, it's a bit different than we've done before, is I think we should recap some of the things we've done this year and maybe talk about some comments that people have sent in.
Okay.
You know, I'd like to get your impression of some subjects that we've covered.
Okay. And then I even have some questions for you.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Good deal. Good deal.
Seeing as it is the 1-year anniversary, I think I finally have a couple questions for you.
Well, we did one podcast where you asked me questions. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So this is number 52, and you know, I guess we might as well just keep going, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the comments that we're getting back from people are very encouraging, and you know, not everybody. One of the things that we started doing this when we first started, I thought, well, you know, why would anybody want to listen to what we had to say? You know. Not you necessarily, me, more to the point. You know, what could I do to help anybody? What would we do that would make a difference? And why would somebody listen to this week after week? But it's happening.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for that. And some of the comments that I've gotten are just that things like that the podcast has helped. I got one from somebody where they said that the podcast helped them to not feel alone in this world.
Yeah.
Which is, you know...
That's phenomenal.
Yeah. So you know what? Getting that message from somebody, it just means everything.
Yeah.
It's like, what else is there? Really, right?
Yeah.
If what we're doing can make a difference for just one person like that, then I'm so happy that, you know, we've kind of been guided to do this.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And they're not always they're not always glowing. The comments are not always glowing. And they're not anything about you, it's about me. People, one person thought that I was holding you back.
Really?
Yeah, that my way of dealing with you are my issues, not your issues, and that I'm holding you back from doing things that you could be doing, and you should be doing at this point. And you have a look on your face. I don't take offense to that at all.
I can see the good coming out of that. But
yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. No. It's whatever.
Yeah.
People. I don't presume to know. You know, or to tell people what to feel,
right?
and what messages to send to me, because that message, while I wouldn't have thought that. Mm-hmm. I can see what they're saying, and since I got that message from them, I really kind of paid attention to it. Yeah. You know, to see, am I giving you too much of a break? You know, am I treating you like a kid?
Sometimes.
When you're an adult.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I think so. But you know, the hard part about this is that, and I'll just go right into this because somebody else had asked about how do I know when your behavior is related to autism. And the answer is I don't. Most of the time maybe I do. Maybe I do a little bit. There's two different answers. One, because I know you, and I know that there's a look that you get in your eyes. And I know that when that happens, it's kind of like a fogginess, kind of like a vacant. Mm-hmm. I can see it happening.
Okay.
In different situations. I can just tell, because there's an energy shift that takes place in you when you've had enough, when you can't stay in a situation. And I've also learned, because you've shown me the things that trigger you, and so I pay attention to when that's going to happen. Right. And, if I'm with you, and as an adult, you're out there on your own a lot of times now.
Yeah.
Growing up, I was
right there
kind of like,
me.
Well, like they say how a mom has an eye in the back of her head. Like I had to have them on all sides, like all the way around my head, because it was better for you if I could see when something was about to happen and you needed some help. Not that I would stop things from happening, you know what I mean? Because you had to live your life. So the answer is this. We did the best that we could to allow you to just be who you are. Mm-hmm. Never expecting you to be anything but who you are. And at the same time, when there's responsibilities, we tried to have them, equal responsibility for you and your sister both. So the idea of what does autism stop you from doing, I don't really know, but the only thing that I knew how to do was to, have expectations, and put them out there and to see what you would do with it.
Yeah.
And then also at the same time kind of be that safety net for you when you were going to be triggered, or if you got to a point you couldn't stay, even if it was a situation that you wanted to be in. So often you couldn't stay the entire time. Mm-hmm. You would need to leave. Being open-minded like that, for us as your parents, I think made a big difference for you. Mm-hmm. The other thing is this. There are things that can be done and there are things that can't be done. You and I were in the store last night, and we experienced a couple of different people, but one in particular that was the daughter, and she was so disrespectful to her mom. And this was an adult, and she just was belligerent and very, very disrespectful.
Going so far as to curse her own mom out.
She did. She did. She cussed at her and all kinds of things. Now, you and I, we don't automatically assume because we hear something that somebody's a jerk.
Right.
You know what I mean? We don't know who they are. We don't know what the situation is. We don't know why something is happening. As the situation continued, because it lasted for about a half hour.
Yeah.
It really kind of became apparent that it was a situation of somebody just not being respectful. Yeah. I don't know how else to say it. Were you going to say something?
No.
No? Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. That's all right. So this person was just very belligerent towards her mom and was very, very disrespectful. Now, so here's what I'll say. That you can't always, you no matter how hard you try, you can't always get your kids to behave themselves. Sometimes as parents we can't get ourselves to behave ourselves. Right? Mm-hmm. So I get that. At the same time, my approach has always been that I don't care if it's autism or it's not autism. You have to be respectful in the way that you speak, not only to me, but when your interactions with other people.
Yeah.
It's something that you've been taught since the time you were little.
Yeah.
You've always been able to express yourself. You've always been able to say if you don't like something, if you would like it to be different, if you're angry. You can have every emotion, every experience. You're allowed to express it all. You're not allowed to swear at me. Right?
Oh my gosh, I know better than that.
Well, it's just interesting because there's times when when you were growing up, like I didn't know, because I felt like there's a fine line between are you dealing with the effects of autism, or do you just need to, have a consequence?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of a line that I walked down, the whole time you were growing up. And I was never quite sure. And yes, the fact is that I erred more on the side of giving you the benefit of the doubt because I didn't know. And so when this person is saying that, I'm holding you back, well, I could see how that might have been the case since we've been doing the podcast. That I was maybe, not expecting enough out of you. Because sometimes I don't know what you're capable of doing and what, you just don't want to do.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that, but there are some things that have been very clear in my mind, and that's something that, like we experienced last night, that's just something we don't do.
Right.
And so, there's boundaries, and I think that's one that, and when we went through the cashier, she was saying, did you see that? Did you see that? And we said, yeah, we saw that. And I said, it's something that's kind of crazy that you don't talk to me like that. And you said, at least not to your face. Yeah, and because I think what I said was that you don't talk to me that way, and I don't talk to
your mom that way.
Right.
Yeah.
And you said at least not to your face, and I was like, ooh, so true.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yep. I remember the days. I remember that.
Well, can I ask you one of the questions I have right now?
Sure.
All right. What are the top 3 significant things you've discovered about me since starting the podcast?
Top 3. That you are able to tap into your thoughts in the conversation as it's happening in real time, which is something you worked very, very hard to do. So what I found is that I didn't know you could do when we first started, which was that I would ask a question, and you have been able to thoughtfully answer the question.
Yeah.
So you're able to access that information right away. Another thing that I found out about you through this is that you have, with everything that happens with you, you feel that in your body all the time.
Yeah.
So that whatever the situation is, whatever the feeling, the emotion is, that you experience all of that in your body.
Yeah, I physically feel it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that you are extremely good at expressing yourself and going kind of in deep, right? And pulling out the things that I'm asking you and to help other people. You're very, very articulate. You're able to express yourself. And I'm so extremely proud of you for that because, again, it's one of the things the doctors said you'd never do.
Yeah.
A whole long list of things they'd never said you'd do, and here you go.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm actually surprised that you finding out about the patterns wasn't one of them.
Well, yes. You said 3.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. The patterns, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you a question too, though.
Mm-hmm.
Is it have you listened to any of these podcasts?
No. I haven't, actually.
You haven't listened to one of them?
No, I haven't.
Do you have any desire to?
I mean, sure.
Okay. It just, if it happens, it does. If it doesn't, no big deal.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
I mean, this is one of those things where I've lived through it once. I don't necessarily have to do it again.
Right. Well, we've talked about a lot about how you feel emotionally, mentally, and physically. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of connected to what I just asked you about. I said that I found out about, which is that you feel things very deeply, that there's this connection. When we talk about these things, it's amazing to me that the way that you're able to pinpoint what you feel and how you feel it. Mm. And then you're able to explain that. I really think that's cool. I'm looking through the podcasts that we've done. We've talked about all kinds of subjects. We talked about rules. You love rules. We talked about your sister.
Yeah.
And she's been on here before. Talked about how she is who she is because she was raised with a brother that's autistic, and how that's affected her and how that's helped her. I think that one of the things she says is that being raised with you is that she doesn't judge people. She just she doesn't. Yeah. I think we're all cognizant of that. Like we just already said that on this podcast right here. Is that it really taught us all that we don't know what's going on with somebody, so it's not our place to make judgments on a situation.
Let me be clear about something when it comes to Haley, though.
Okay.
For me, I always feel like I haven't done enough for her.
What do you mean?
Like I know that she's done so many things for me over the course of my life, over the course of her life. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't usually do this, but it's just an unconscious feeling of that weight-wise, she's done so much more for me than I've done for her, that hearing about these kind of things really makes me feel better about that.
Oh, good. Good.
Because I know that she has put up with a lot of crap for me.
Well,
over the years.
Yeah, but I think that I could speak for her to that, is that she never looks at it that way. She doesn't look at what she's done and, like you need to...
I mean, it's not like I have to repay her or whatever.
Right,
it's just that feeling that have I made things okay with her to make things okay?
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So because I like people being happy.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I think one of the things that you do that makes her very happy is that you're a wonderful uncle to both of her kids. You're really, really good with them.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like punting them out of the room. But
Well.
I think most people get that feeling after having too much time with little kids. Even if you don't say it out loud.
All right. That's funny. See, some of the things we've talked about is you going to college and you getting a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how do those things feel different to you? Have you learned about yourself in regards to those things because of the podcast?
I don't know if it was because of the podcast or not.
Uh-huh.
I know that talking on the podcast about these things have made me more aware of them. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if the feelings that I had came about because I thought about them that deeply or not.
Right, yeah. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I understand.
But with that being said, I mean, college just isn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mesh with my way of thinking.
Right.
Even with all the different accommodations I can have, it doesn't really mesh with me.
Right. Well, there's somebody that we've talked to that said that they have an idea for you, that if you did want to go back, they have a suggestion, and I don't know what it is, because I would love to have him on the podcast, as a matter of fact.
Oh.
That he has some suggestions on how to use your need for patterns to in the college experience.
Oh.
He feels like that would really help you to be successful.
Okay.
But I would like to have him on the podcast for a number of reasons. 'Cause he's autistic, and he's just a wealth of information, of insight. He's seems to be a very kind and
Insightful.
yes, insightful and compassionate person.
Oh.
So I'd really like to have him on the podcast, and at some point, hopefully pretty soon, and just see what he has to say, what he can share with us.
Yeah.
One thing we talked about is your opinions.
Mm-hmm.
How once you get them, it's hard for you to change them. Things need to, you have your opinion, you think it's the way it is, and other people's opinions, sometimes you're shocked to find out that others have a different opinion.
I've also found out through experience that sometimes whenever other people point out something to me, my mind, just like that, makes a switch of you know what, that's the right way of thinking of it. And then you guys keep on talking about it to me. Like during a conversation, for example, something could click with me, and for another 20 minutes we're still talking like I'm at that other point of view.
Why don't you say something?
I don't know. I don't think I get a chance sometimes. It feels like
we haven't had
a conversation in a long time, actually.
Well,
like where I'm in trouble conversation.
Sure. And we've learned a long time ago that 20 minutes, we're not going to get to 20 minutes. It doesn't happen. I'm sure it feels like it to you.
Yeah.
But usually it's like 5 minutes tops, because you begin to shut down.
Yeah.
So, it's one of the things that's come about because of this podcast. There's two things that I know that have improved for us. So I know that on the podcast before, you've said that you hope that it's helping people. And that's the same thing for me. I really hope that it's helping people. It sounds like it is, and I want to continue doing it. And for us, for me, I understand you better than I ever have before. And the thing that we're doing here is just an extension of what we've always done. Because I've always asked you how you feel. I've always asked you what you're thinking. I've always asked you, are you comfortable in this situation or in this situation, and if you know why. Those things have always been important to me, that how you interpret your surroundings, not so much how they look to me, but how you're interpreting them.
Okay. Along those lines, I have another question for you.
Okay.
Has talking on the podcast helped you to work through issues in your life? And if so, could you explain how?
Issues in my life? I think that one of the biggest issues is that it's really helping me to step away from having to be like glued to you all the time. And from the very beginning, what I said was that, you don't want me there and I don't want to be there. Like, we want some separation. We were both wanting the same thing.
We still want to help each other, but we don't want to be glued at the hip. Right,
exactly. And I think that's what's really changed, is that because in hearing you express yourself, and through the podcast, you've said that you wanted to do speeches, so that when you went with me that one time that I did a speech, and you came up and did the Q&A afterwards, that led to somebody being in the audience that owned a company that employed people with autism.
Yeah.
And now you're working for them.
Yeah.
So I think that it's really had a huge impact. And, you usually work, when you work about 2 days a week.
Yeah.
Sometimes 3, occasionally 4.
Yeah. But most of the time it's like 1 or 2 days.
Mm-hmm. Right. And because of that, we've set you up a checking account.
Mm-hmm.
And we are in the process of helping you to handle that and to learn and keep track. And, we've talked about those overdraft charges.
That have not happened.
But that it's super uncomfortable if it ever does.
Yes.
And that happened to me once. In my whole life, that's happened to me once. And, you're like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. You just don't want that to happen. But anyway, the long answer to that straightforward question is that it's really helping me to understand how you feel, what you know, how you can express yourself, how you can handle yourself. You got a job, and there are still those things that I kind of need to. You need me in your life for these certain things. Mm-hmm. What I've learned is that it really is definitely time to really step away more than I ever was before. And we're still doing that dance, We're still trying to figure it out, because as soon as it feels like, I shouldn't say, shouldn't make a generalization there, because that was not accurate. There are those things that you still need help with, and that's cool. It's fine.
Cool. So I have a couple more questions. Do you have any more questions?
Yeah. I think that you don't listen to the podcasts.
No.
Do you enjoy doing them?
Yeah, I do. I really do.
You were kind of, when we did that speech, when I did that speech and you came, were you surprised to find out how many people listened to it?
Kind of. I mean, I didn't expect any amount, whether a lot or a little.
I should say, let me rephrase it. Were you surprised when people were saying to you, "I listened to you"? Oh, now that I get to meet you in person, I listened to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's always really cool to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of strange.
A little.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes you feel good, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, go ahead. Just go ahead with one of your questions.
All right. What am I getting for Christmas?
Same as always, lump of coal.
I have not gotten one of those yet.
I have.
Oh, jeez. You have, actually. Yes, I remember that. I hope I never have to get coal.
Well, that is one of the things that we talked about, is that around the holidays for you, it still is something that it's amazing, because it can be, as your mom, it feels an awful lot of the time that you don't think about me, and I don't know how different to say it. You are aware of you. I just can't even seem to form a sentence here, because I don't want to. One of the things that's happened that when we started this podcast, I was concerned in the beginning that it would sound like, again, I don't want to sound like I was, a jerk or something.
Right.
And I didn't know how we sound. I didn't know what would come across,
Yeah.
And so I was really watching what I was saying and not editing myself, I guess, but kind of wondering. I hope that didn't sound like
you
I was
don't
being rude or
want
something.
any unintentional double entendre or anything like that.
No.
Yeah.
No. So what I'm trying to say is that yes, there on a daily living situation and experience, you are not real attentive, right? You're not aware of what other people are doing, aware of what other people need, what other people are if it's something needs to be taken care of, if we
typically speaking, I do not notice. Yes.
Right. And that's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. And then Christmas time comes, and all of a sudden, you know us so well, and get things. You're very thoughtful in that whole purchasing process, and that it's very deliberate.
Yeah.
And it's like, where have you been? Anyway, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool that you do that.
Yeah. So here's a real question then.
Okay.
What podcast do you think had the most impact?
Oh my goodness. The ones, what I hear from people, the ones that have had the most impact are the ones where we've talked about subjects that were very, and the emotion was raw. Mm-hmm. And we were very, went to that area where we were vulnerable. Mm-hmm. I think that made a big difference. Yeah. I hear from people that they've cried and laughed and, have shared the emotions with us. Mm. And so I think that, though there's some that we've really shared a lot of, it was raw, the things that we were sharing, and those I think made a difference. And also I've enjoyed the ones where we've laughed a lot, because this is very different from whatever I'm accustomed to doing. I'm used to being up on the stage by myself, and it's like ba-dum, 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 and there's the punchline. Yeah. And this is very different to me. So because when I'm asking you the questions, when I'm kind of guiding the podcast here, I'm concentrating and I'm listening to what you're saying and watching you to see if you're okay to continue. And, so it just feels very different. So this whole process of doing the podcast has felt very foreign to me. But I just feel like just need to keep going and, because there's a lot more to talk about. Yeah. Yeah. I have like the next dozen ideas and, subjects already written, ready to go. So, yeah. So, I'm not really sure. What about you? What do you think what's your idea on which one do you think was the most important or had the most impact?
Honestly, I think the one that had the most impact wasn't necessarily from the podcast itself. It was from one of our listeners contacting us and telling us, "Hey, you do things in patterns." Mm-hmm.
Right.
And pointing that out to us.
Mm-hmm. It's the same gentleman that I was talking about that I
want
to that I want to have on the podcast.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, having that aha moment because of what he said was like mind blowing.
Yes,
it was. Yeah. It put everything in my life into focus.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
That was a podcast on patterns.
It was?
Yeah.
No, I thought the one on patterns came right after he made that mention. Yeah, I think it was.
You might be right. I'm looking at the names of them, and sometimes I can't tell what we talked about based on the names of them.
Yeah. Rules and then patterns was the one after it, I think. No?
Nah, it was like 25 or something like that, separating those two. But close. We've talked about all kinds of stuff, though. But anyway, you feel like you've learned a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like I've learned a lot about myself, too. My best friend, Karen, tells me sometimes, she's like, that I'm doing this. Like, she reminds me, you're doing this. This is something that you're doing, and it's making a difference. Because I will say to her sometimes, like, I don't know what, sometimes I don't know if this is really, helping anybody. Is it anybody, because I don't do the numbers. Dad does the numbers. Yeah. Right? He looks on there. He knows who's listening, and not who. It's not like we're creeps. Like we know who's listening. I don't even.
Dan down the street.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We're not that. No, we're not creepers. I
don't even know if we have a Dan on our street.
No. No. But he knows the numbers, and he also knows the countries. Yeah,
the viewers and the country of origin.
Yes, right. So the downloads.
Yeah.
Yep. So, that we get that. But it's it goes back to it being very different for me, is that I'm used to being up on a stage, so I get this instant feedback.
Yeah.
And it's this conversation where I say this and there's laughter, and I say this and there's laughter. It's this conversation that goes back and forth.
Yeah, you say something, there's crickets chirping.
Well, that's happened.
Yes.
Yes, that's still part of the conversation. So, anyway, it's taken some getting used to for me.
No.
Yeah, she reminds me. She goes, you know what, you're doing it. That's what matters. You're doing it.
Yeah.
And then I would, wonder, and then I'll get a message from somebody.
Yeah.
And
it's just an affirmation that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that it matters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And something has happened, though, is from when we first started to now. And I guess in the very beginning I was concerned about how to do this, make sure I was doing it right, make sure I wasn't offending anyone, because I know you and me. I know you, I know your sense of humor, I know that I've always just talked straightforward to you.
Yeah.
And have been sarcastic with you, have, been, kind of deadpan, just, all of it.
Yeah.
And I guess I wasn't sure how that would come across on a podcast. That's what I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
Was it going to come off of me being demeaning or disrespectful?
When you were trying to be funny.
Just in conversation with you, things that you're used to, that and the difference that's happened, and a year in, the difference of when we started to now, is that I don't worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
So I say it. If it comes out wrong, it comes out wrong.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And, there's nothing I can do about that. But there's no sense in trying to, feel like I've got to get it perfect. Because it just doesn't make any sense. So, anyway, there it is. Do you have any other questions?
No, not written down, no.
Okay.
Do you have any more questions for me?
No, I just, I'm surprised that we've already done 52. This is our 52nd podcast. That's really shocking to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what we need to do is we schedule, get to scheduling more and more speeches.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hear that, people? Hire us, please.
Well, I won't argue with that. And just like I won't argue, if you feel like going and giving us 5 stars wherever you listen, please do so. It helps to bump us up.
Yeah.
Your dad just did something with the system that helped us to be seen.
Yeah, we went from like 40,000th to like the top 25.
Something to that effect.
Yeah.
And I don't even have the verbiage to describe what it is he did. I have no idea.
Yeah.
He's just the fix-it guy around here.
He
goes, the numbers
guru.
guy, the fix-it guy, yes, all that stuff. So, yeah. I think also, I'll say this, that not only has this podcast helped us, but it's helped our family.
Yeah.
Because they listen and they have even said to me that they didn't know things before.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that there's things that we didn't say until we sit down and do a podcast, because it's just you get to the daily grind of life sometimes.
And it just is the way it's been.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think to tell other people the little things.
Right, because it's just the way it is every day. It's how what life is like. Yeah, right. So, happy anniversary.
Yeah, happy anniversary.
That's pretty cool.
For the people in the U.S., happy belated Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Everyone else,
happy Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And I would like to say that if you go to my website, it's sonyaking.com. It's SONYAKING.com. And there's a bunch of illustrations that are attached to a blog that I do. So for every podcast that Josh and I do a blog that's associated with that podcast. And it's illustrated by my son-in-law, R.J. Fagan, and he's got a website. But if you go to my website, I can't remember what his.
I didn't even know he had a website.
Okay, if you go to my website, you can find the illustrations, and if you like what he does, which is, I think he's brilliant, you can contact him. It'll be on my website how you can contact him. And this is what he does.
He's an artist.
Yeah, he's an artist, so he can do whatever you're looking for. He's just wonderful at that.
Yeah.
So that's that plug.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we say this every time. But for those of you that listen, you just mean so much to us. The fact that you're listening. We do this in hopes that we can help in some way or another.
Yeah.
We never know what somebody might need. Just whatever, anything and everything from A to Z.
If you have any suggestions for us to talk about, send it to us. If you have any questions that you want for us to answer, send us a message. If you want for us to come out and work for you, again, message us. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. But you really do mean a lot to us. We're so grateful. So thank you for listening and for the message you send. And we will keep at it. So, onward and upward, eh?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Love you.
Bye.